Welcome to the Dr. Dare Show. My name is Dr. Dare, and I am a mental health therapist. And what I want you to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, share it, and don't forget to hit that little bell that's down below so that you'll continue to get alerts when I am sending out a new video. Today's topic is anxiety. And what we want to do is how to identify if you have anxiety. So first of all, we're going to define anxiety. And anxiety, to me, is defined as like intense moments where there's this fear and you're always thinking something's getting ready to happen. It's future oriented. You're always feeling like something is definitely going to go wrong because I am in this situation. And usually it's situational. Usually it's brought on by certain things and what I call triggers, something that may trigger you. I actually experience anxiety myself. I experience social anxiety, and I experience like panic attacks, and I'll get to that later. I'll give you a little self-disclosure. But generally, it's just feelings of tension, worried thoughts, you anticipate like impending danger, and like I said, it's usually future oriented, and you usually have symptoms of like fear of dying, sweating, heart palpitations, trembling, fear of losing control, just all of those emotions, and each individual experience those things differently. So that's kind of our general definition of anxiety. So if you recognize yourself in those, keep that in mind as we go through the discussion. Okay. So again, we're how to identify if you have an anxiety. So if you're experiencing those kind of symptoms that I just named, and you're in a situation and it's becoming kind of a consistent thing, and what we say as therapists is that if your anxiety feelings are preventing you from functioning day to day, then it's a problem, and you probably want to seek like a mental health therapist or a psychologist or a professional to kind of get working on helping yourself with anxiety. And again, like I say in all my other videos, everyone experiences anxiety, a little anxiety. It's normal to be nervous when you get ready to do some type of public speaking, or you get ready to just present something to friends or do something new that's probably outside the box that you're normally in. Those are like your normal everyday anxiety situations, but they don't like keep you from functioning. You actually present, or you go through the process, and that anxiety goes away. When we're talking about anxiety on a level where it's constant, then we're getting to anxiety disorders, and there's it's more frequent. There's more, like I said, it's impacting your functioning. You can't present because you're so nervous that you just leave and go back home, or you get so nervous that when you are in that situation, you can't function, and it's consistently, and it's impacting your job, it's impacting your relationships, then you have probably anxiety disorder. And I'm not diagnosing anyone. I want you to go see a professional if this stuff is sounding familiar to you. And there's different types of anxiety disorders, and I'm going to name them. First, generalized anxiety disorder. There's obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, acronym for that. Panic disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and social phobia and specific phobia. So those are some of the anxiety disorders that we have out there, and I'm sure you've heard of OCD. It's commonly, you hear it on TV all the time, or PTSD. Like a lot of veterans suffer from that. But those are all different anxiety type fears and disorders. Excuse me. Now for me, I suffer from panic disorder and social phobia disorder. Now, I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm a therapist, so I kind of see the symptoms of myself. And this is where mine started. I took a trip to Thailand. I flew there on a plane, of course, and flew there and then flew back and got back to the United States and had a layover in LAX airport. It was a all-day layover. What I should have done was just got a hotel and slept and probably flew out the next night, but I didn't. I waited all day at the airport. I had already been on, I forgot, 12-hour flight from Thailand. I forgot the number. But when I got back on the plane at LAX, it was fine initially, and I started sleeping. I had a window seat, and there was a gentleman sitting beside me, and I had fell asleep, and he fell asleep. But every time he fell asleep, he was leaning against me, you know, and I woke up out of my sleep and just had this intense fear. I was trembling, I was sweating, I didn't know what was happening. I knew I had to get up, I knew I had to escape. Felt like claustrophobia, which is a type of anxiety disorder as well. And I felt like I had to escape, so I got up, went to the back where the flight attendants were, and just stood back there and told them what was happening and that I just needed to breathe and walk around and get out of the seat. So the flight was half over, thank God, and then I went back after the flight attendants were like, okay, you gotta go sit down because we're getting ready to land. So I went back and I asked the two gentlemen, could they scoot over so I could sit on the row, and thank God everything went okay and I got off the plane and everything was okay. But I had, again, this future-oriented fear of flying on planes now after that experience. So I was kind of avoiding that flying, and I started like kind of driving to places that I wanted to go that were kind of far, instead of, in the past, I would just get on the plane. And so eventually I was like, okay, Frederick, you have to face this fear. You have to get on the plane. And so my first flight, I flew to Florida. It was very short from where I live, like an hour, and I was fine. What I did, and I'll talk about those later. Well, I'll talk about them now. Tips that I use to get over that particular fear, because I still have that fear. It's not totally gone. I have to do stuff to work on getting on a plane, but I've flown several times since then. But what I started doing is I take an aisle seat. I'll order an aisle seat, or I'll get the exit row. That way, I don't feel so confined, like the window seat or the middle seat. I'll sit on the aisle, or I'll get in the exit row where I have room to like just stretch my legs and I can freely get up and go to the bathroom, or just kind of, you know, just in my mind, knowing that I had that opportunity helped me. And the process that I'm using when I'm putting myself on the plane, knowing I'm having this fear, is desensitization. And that is a process where you're putting yourself into the situation that you fear. Because that fear is not reality. It's something in your brain that just tells you that something is going to happen. Like, I don't have control. Fear of losing control. Fear of something happening. But I know in my mind that nothing's going to happen. I'm on a plane. I mean, and it's not the fear of crashing. This is all in your, I don't know how to explain it. But that's one of my fears. And then the other one is social phobia. Like, I teach Zumba class. I'm fine teaching, no issues as far as social phobias. But I'm also a singer, and I don't do it as often as I should, perform live in front of people. So that is a struggle. Again, the process of desensitization is actually putting myself, if I am going to sing in front of a group of people, my process is I'm going to start singing at little local places where the small crowds are small, and get that nervousness out. And that process is spelled, I'll spell it out because I'm saying desensitization, DESENSITIZATION. And like, again, you just put yourself in that situation. And I don't recommend you doing that if you haven't seen a professional. I would go see a professional. If any of this stuff is ringing a bell and resonating with you, I would go see a professional. I am a professional, so I know how to put myself through those things. And some other tips I did: I took movies on the plane. I took music on the plane. I took books. And usually, when that fear comes, that future-oriented fear in my head, it only lasts for maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes for me. And so I would preoccupy my mind with something, and if I do that, that feeling goes away. Now, what I did find on that, okay, so back to this. On the plane, I took another plane. I took 3 flights after that, fine. But then that 4th flight, I had an incident happen again where I was on a small plane, and that intense fear got on me again. And I before the door closed, I told the flight attendant, I can't. I'm having like anxiety right now. So I got off, and they put me on a bigger plane, and I flew home, and I was fine. But there was a trigger that I realize now that I can't, if I'm planning on doing something that I know is going to cause anxiety, I cannot drink coffee. I cannot drink caffeine. Caffeine is an upper, and it sends me into anxiety mode. And that morning on that 4th flight, all I had was coffee. I didn't know. I drank coffee, got on the plane, and my anxiety just went crazy because I was in a confined situation, and I had to get up. I had to get off the plane. And the flight attendant is the one that said, "Did you drink coffee this morning?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "That triggers your anxiety if you have anxiety." Ooh. So I know now, stay away from caffeine. Caffeine is really not good for me and anxiety. And so those are some of the tips that I use. If you want more information on like tips, email me. Again, subscribe to this video, share it, like it, and hit the bell, because I'm going to be doing other topics in mental health, just to give my perspective as a therapist on it. And if I experienced it, I want to share that. Okay, so I talked about